2,500 years ago, a man sat under a tree and changed the world forever. But what really happened that night? Did Siddhartha Gautama gain superpowers? See the future? Or was his discovery something far more surprising? The truth about enlightenment might shock you, and if you think you know what it means to be enlightened, think again. Hey friends, Matt here from Buddha's Wisdom. Today we're tackling Buddhism's biggest mystery, enlightenment. It's what the Buddha discovered under that Bodhi tree. It's what monks dedicate their entire lives to. And it's probably nothing like what you imagine. If you've watched our video on the Four Noble Truths, you already know the basics of what Buddha taught. But today we're going deeper. We're uncovering what actually happens when someone wakes up to reality. Is enlightenment some magical state where you float above your problems? Is it something only ancient monks could achieve? Or is it much closer than you think? As the Zen master Dogen said, if you cannot find the truth right where you are, where else do you expect to find it? That's our first clue. So grab your favorite meditation cushion, or just get comfortable wherever you are, because we're about to explore what enlightenment really is, and why those who claim to have it probably don't. Let's get started. Picture this. A man sits under a massive fig tree. He's been meditating for days, hungry, exhausted, but determined to find the answer to human suffering. This isn't just any man. It's Siddhartha Gautama, a former prince who gave up everything: luxury, family, comfort, all to discover why we hurt. As night falls, Siddhartha faces his own mind. According to Buddhist traditions, he encounters Mara, the embodiment of temptation and distraction. Memories and desires arise, but he remains steady in his meditation, observing each thought without getting caught up in it. The Pali Canon tells us something profound happened that night. Through deep concentration, Siddhartha gained 3 specific insights. First, he recalled his past lives. Then, he understood the cycle of rebirth for all beings. And finally, he realized the 4 noble truths: the nature of suffering, its cause, its end, and the path to its end. When the morning star appeared in the sky, Siddhartha's understanding was complete. In his own words from the Dhammapada, "Through many births I wandered, seeking but not finding the builder of this house. Painful is repeated birth. House builder, you are seen. You shall build no house again. All your rafters are broken, your ridgepole shattered. My mind has attained the unconditioned. Achieved is the end of craving." What's fascinating is what didn't change. The Buddha didn't become superhuman. He remained subject to physical pain, aging, and bodily needs. What transformed was his relationship with experience. He no longer generated suffering around these natural processes. As the respected monk Thanissaro Bhikkhu explains, the Buddha's awakening gave him not a linear view of the cosmos, but a view of experience that was more like a hologram. He saw how suffering arises and how it ceases, through direct experience, not abstract theory. And this awakening led directly to compassion. The Buddha didn't retreat to isolation. Instead, he spent 45 years teaching others the path he'd discovered. His first discourse at Deer Park wasn't about magical powers, but about the practical path to end suffering. Let's talk about what most people think enlightenment looks like. A glowing guru on a mountain, someone who's always peaceful, never gets angry, floats above the problems of everyday life. Maybe they can read minds or predict the future. But here's the shocking truth. That's not enlightenment at all. Real Buddhist masters throughout history have described awakening very differently. When Zen master Qing Yuan was asked about his experience, he said something surprising. "Before I studied Zen, mountains were mountains and waters were waters. When I learned Zen, mountains were no longer mountains and waters no longer waters. But now, mountains are once again mountains and waters once again waters." What does that mean? It means enlightenment isn't about seeing something spectacular. It's about seeing ordinary reality without distortion. Here's what's truly shocking. Many Buddhist masters admit that awakening is initially disappointing. Yes, disappointing. The 13th century Zen master Dogen wrote that enlightenment can feel like the most ordinary thing in the world. You expect cosmic fireworks and get regular Tuesday morning. The 9th century master Linji was even more provocative when he said, "If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him." He wasn't promoting violence, but warning against clinging to ideas of enlightenment. Even the idea of becoming enlightened becomes another obstacle. Let me share one of my favorite Zen stories. A monk asked Master Zhao Zhou, "What is enlightenment?" Zhao Zhou replied, "Have you eaten your rice porridge?" The monk said, "Yes." Zhao Zhou said, "Then wash your bowl." That's it. No profound philosophy, no mystical vision, just washing your bowl, being completely present with the most ordinary activity. Even the Buddha himself challenged the mystical view. In the Kalama Sutta, he said, "Don't believe something just because it's passed down by tradition. Don't believe something just because I said it. Test everything against your own experience." He wasn't asking for blind faith in some magical transformation. The most enlightened teachers often seem, well, disappointingly normal. They get hungry. They get tired. They laugh at jokes. As the 20th century Zen master Shunryu Suzuki put it, "If you think you're enlightened, that's a sure sign you're not." True awakening comes with humility, not grandiosity. In our video about Buddhist myths, we talked about misconceptions around Buddhist practice, but this might be the biggest one. Enlightenment isn't an achievement that makes you special. It's the recognition that you were never separate in the first place. It's not adding something new. It's removing the illusions that cloud your natural awareness. The Thai forest monk Ajahn Chah described it beautifully. Looking for peace is like looking for a turtle with a mustache. You won't find it. But when your heart is ready, peace will come looking for you. The shocking truth about enlightenment isn't how extraordinary it is, but how extraordinarily ordinary. Here's where things get really interesting. There's a paradox at the heart of spiritual practice. The more desperately you want enlightenment, the more it slips away from you. This is what I call the Enlightenment Trap. Think about it. You start meditating to find peace, but then you're checking your progress constantly. Am I enlightened yet? How about now? Was that it? You're turning your practice into another achievement for your ego, another way to feel special. But enlightenment isn't something your ego can possess. It's the dropping away of ego identification. This connects directly to one of Buddhism's most profound insights, anatta, or non-self. The Buddha taught that what we consider ourself isn't a fixed, permanent entity, but a process, a flowing collection of experiences, perceptions, thoughts, and feelings. Enlightenment involves seeing through the illusion of a separate, solid self. As the Mahayana Sutras put it, form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. You don't lose your identity in awakening. You see it for what it truly is, open, interconnected, and constantly changing. This isn't abstract philosophy. It's liberation from the prison of a fixed identity. No wonder the Buddha described his awakening as breaking free from chains. I see this on meditation retreats all the time. People competing for who can sit the longest, who has the deepest insights, who can be the most spiritual. One person experiences a moment of bliss and thinks, "I've got it." Another has a vision and believes they're chosen. But genuine awakening can't be captured or owned this way. The 13th century Zen master Dogen warned about this. He said, "To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self." But how many of us are actually trying to forget ourselves? Most of us are trying to improve ourselves, to become a better, more spiritual version of who we already think we are. This trap gets even more dangerous when teachers and gurus fall into it. History is filled with self-proclaimed enlightened masters who used their status to manipulate followers. They claimed special knowledge or powers, demanded complete obedience, even abused their students' trust. As the Buddha himself cautioned in the Kalama Sutta, "Don't go by reports, by legends, by traditions, by scripture, by logical conjecture, by inference, by analogies, by agreement through pondering views, by probability, or by the thought. This contemplative is our teacher." The dark side of the Enlightenment Trap is what psychologists now call spiritual bypassing, using spiritual ideas to avoid dealing with challenges. "I'm so enlightened, I don't need to address my harmful behavior. Everything is empty, so my actions don't matter." This misses the point entirely. True awakening increases responsibility and ethical awareness, not decreases it. Remember this simple truth. Those who claim enlightenment most loudly are usually furthest from it. As the Tao Te Ching puts it, "Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know." The moment you believe you're enlightened, you've fallen into the trap. This romanticization of enlightenment has exploded in our modern consumer culture. We've turned awakening into another product, another experience to collect. You see this in wellness retreats promising enlightenment in a weekend, or apps claiming to deliver ancient wisdom without the work. True practice isn't about accumulating special experiences. It's about seeing through the very desire for special experiences. This romanticization becomes especially dangerous when it leads to spiritual bypassing. I've witnessed meditators dismiss real-world problems with phrases like, "It's all just emptiness," or "Everything is perfect as it is," while ignoring ethical responsibilities. The Buddha never taught that awakening means escaping reality. Quite the opposite. It means facing reality more directly, with greater responsibility, not less. So what does enlightenment look like in today's world? Scientists have actually been studying this question for decades. They've put longtime meditators and Buddhist monks into brain scanners, and what they've found is fascinating. These advanced practitioners show distinctive brain patterns, increased gamma waves, more activity in the prefrontal cortex, less reactivity in the amygdala, reduced activity in what's called the default mode network, the part responsible for self-referential thinking. In other words, their brains physically change. Let me share something funny that happened at a silent meditation retreat I attended. On day 5, someone had this profound experience during meditation. Their face was glowing. They were floating on air. Then at lunch, someone took the last dessert they wanted and boom, instant rage. We all do this. We have a moment of clarity in meditation, then lose it when life happens. But here's the thing. That's not a failure of practice. That is the practice. Noticing how quickly we go from Buddha to Hulk is exactly what awareness is for. As one teacher joked, enlightenment isn't when you stop getting angry about traffic. It's when you see yourself getting angry and think, there's that pattern again, and maybe laugh at yourself a little. But here's the critical question. Can a brain scan detect enlightenment? Can science measure awakening? Many researchers now believe the answer is no. As neuroscientist Richard Davidson puts it, we can measure correlates of meditation, but consciousness itself remains a scientific mystery. The finger pointing at the moon is not the moon itself. What's even more interesting is how enlightenment manifests in everyday people. You don't need to be a monk in a monastery. A parent changing diapers can be just as awakened as someone meditating in a cave. A programmer writing code can be just as present as someone chanting mantras. I spoke with several teachers for this video, and they all emphasized the same point. Enlightenment isn't about escaping your life. It's about being fully present within it. The awakened mind brings clarity to whatever it touches. Relationships, work, creativity, even struggle. Think about everyday situations. How would an enlightened person handle getting cut off in traffic? They might feel a flash of anger, but it wouldn't consume them. How would they deal with illness? They'd face pain directly, without adding the suffering of resistance. How would they approach success? With appreciation, but without grasping. As one contemporary teacher told me, enlightenment isn't locked in a monastery. It's found in how you treat others, your patience in traffic, and the presence you bring to each moment. The Buddha himself was constantly engaged with society, teaching, traveling, resolving conflicts. It's fascinating how enlightenment is understood differently across cultures. In traditional Eastern contexts, awakening is often seen as realizing what's already present, your Buddha nature. It's removing obstacles to what's natural. But when these teachings migrated to the West, they often merged with our achievement-oriented mindset. Western seekers frequently approach enlightenment as something to gain, accomplish, or add to themselves. The psychology professor Jack Kornfield calls this the spiritual materialism of the West. Neither view is entirely wrong, but the traditional Eastern approach might save us from turning enlightenment into another item on our spiritual shopping list. As the Vietnamese Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh said, "We are here to awaken from the illusion of our separateness, not to acquire something we lack." Modern manifestations of enlightenment are practical. You notice it in someone's actions more than their words, in their consistent kindness, in their capacity to stay balanced under pressure, in their ability to see clearly without being swept away by emotions. These qualities don't make for flashy Instagram posts, but they're far more valuable. Now we come to one of Buddhism's most beautiful concepts, the Bodhisattva Path. A bodhisattva is someone who could reach complete enlightenment, but makes an extraordinary choice. They vow to remain in the cycle of rebirth, to help all beings end their suffering. It's the ultimate act of compassion. As we covered in our video, Why Everyone Needs to Know About Bodhisattvas, this ideal completely transforms how we view enlightenment. Instead of seeking liberation for yourself alone, you recognize that true freedom comes through connection with others. The Bodhisattva makes a radical promise, expressed in these powerful words from the tradition. May I be a guard for those who need protection, a guide for those on the path, a boat, a raft, a bridge for those who wish to cross the flood. May I be a lamp in the darkness, a resting place for the weary, a healing medicine for all who are sick, a vase of plenty, a tree of miracles. What's fascinating is how this path changes our relationship with suffering. When you're only focused on escaping your own pain, suffering remains the enemy. But for a bodhisattva, suffering becomes the catalyst for compassion. Your own difficulties help you understand what others feel. Your challenges become your teachers. The Heart Sutra, one of Buddhism's most important texts, contains the essence of this wisdom. Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, practicing deep prajnaparamita, clearly saw that all 5 skandhas are empty, transforming all suffering and distress. This doesn't mean suffering disappears. It means you see its true nature and are no longer controlled by it. I find this especially relevant in today's world. We're constantly bombarded with messages about personal success and individual happiness. But the Bodhisattva path reminds us that true fulfillment comes through service and connection. True enlightenment isn't a private achievement, it naturally flows outward to benefit others. As the 14th Dalai Lama says, our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. This simple statement captures the practical ethics of awakening. It's not about reaching some exalted state. It's about how you treat the person right in front of you, right now. But if the Bodhisattva path is about how enlightenment moves outward, how does it arise in the first place? Slowly over years, or all at once? Throughout Buddhist history, there's been a fascinating debate. Does enlightenment happen in a flash of insight, or through gradual development over time? Different traditions have strong opinions about this. In Zen and Chan Buddhism, Teachers often emphasize sudden enlightenment. They speak of satori, a moment of breakthrough when everything shifts. The classic Zen stories love these dramatic awakenings, like when Kyogen was sweeping and a tile hit bamboo with a sharp crack. In that sound, his mind opened completely. Or when Hakuin heard a temple bell and suddenly understood. Meanwhile, the Theravada tradition generally teaches a more gradual approach. They outline specific stages of insight that unfold step by step. First comes moral discipline, then concentration, then wisdom emerges. The Visuddhimagga, a 5th century Buddhist text, maps out 16 distinct insight knowledges that develop in sequence. So who's right? The sudden school or the gradual school? Here's where it gets interesting. Maybe both are true simultaneously. The 9th century Chan master Gufeng Zongmi offered a brilliant solution. He said enlightenment is sudden, but its expression is gradual. It's like the sun rising. The sun itself emerges suddenly above the horizon, but it gradually illuminates the landscape. One moment you're in darkness, then there's light. But it takes time to see everything clearly. This matches the experience of many practitioners I've spoken with. They describe moments of profound insight, followed by years of integrating that understanding. As one teacher told me, awakening can happen in an instant, but embodying it takes a lifetime. The Buddha himself seemed to acknowledge both paths. In some sutras, he describes gradual training. In others, he tells stories of immediate awakening. His first disciples reached enlightenment at different speeds. Some took years, others understood immediately. What matters isn't the timeline, but the authenticity. As the Buddha didn't say, "I am enlightened," he said, "I am awake." The journey isn't to become something else, but to wake up to what you already are. Sometimes that happens gradually, as the morning light fills a room. Other times it happens suddenly, like flipping on a light switch. But either way, what matters is seeing clearly. We've traveled quite a path together in this video, from the Buddha's awakening under the Bodhi tree to the ways enlightenment manifests in our modern world. So what have we discovered? Enlightenment isn't what most people think. It's not gaining special powers. It's not escaping your problems. It's not becoming someone else. It's seeing reality clearly, just as it is, without the distortions of craving, aversion, and delusion. The great mystery of awakening is this paradox. The external world remains exactly the same, yet everything is transformed. As one teacher put it, enlightenment isn't a cosmic fireworks display. It's simply removing the blinders you never knew you were wearing. Nothing changes, yet everything is different. If there's one thing to take away from our exploration today, it's this. Don't chase enlightenment as another achievement. That's just the ego playing spiritual games. Instead, practice with sincerity. Be present with whatever arises. Cultivate compassion for yourself and others. The rest will unfold naturally. Remember, enlightenment isn't found in a temple, a text, or a technique. It is the silent awareness behind every breath. The moment you stop searching for it, it has already arrived. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts and questions in the comments below. Have you experienced moments of clarity in your own practice? What obstacles do you face? What teachings have helped you the most? If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more insights from Buddha's wisdom. Check out our other videos on topics like karma, meditation, and the Four Noble Truths. Until next time, may your path be clear, your heart be open, and your mind be at peace. See you soon.